Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Sheet Metal Unleashed, the podcast. And thank you, Chase, for joining me today. I'm going to make an introduction. So most of you all know I work for BluTec Machinery, and I've had the pleasure of working with Chase at BluTec Machinery as well. And I wanted to bring him on here, being a young guy in this manufacturing industry, and just get a take on his background and how he got into this industry and what he thinks so far, because I know there's a lot of people out there who wants to get into manufacturing, or always want to know how do we do this, or this is exciting business to be in. So and also check out our website. It's sheetmetaltv.com. You can find us there. We've got YouTube and Spotify and everything there. So let's go ahead and get in this. So Chase, what inspired you to getting into manufacturing, and tell us about Chase Collins?
Well, thank you. Yeah. My story getting into it all, probably a little bit different than most people. My dad, Rob Collins, started BluTec back in, I think, 2017. And, growing up, my dad was in the industry. So, every once in a while, he'd take me out of school and say, Chase, come on, let's go see a shop real quick. You want to go see what people do in the real world, right? And I was kind of hooked as a kid in a way. I enjoyed seeing how things were made. I don't think there's a single, 10-year-old boy out there that doesn't want to see a huge piece of machinery go cook every, 5 seconds or whatever. So growing up, I had a little bit of an intro into it all, but actually during high school, I had a completely different plan in place. So I was doing an ROTC contract with the Marine Corps down at the Citadel. During that kind of time period and during my training, stuff like that, ended up, Dad had a heart attack and stroke. And so that kind of changed all of the plans for my whole family. And at that point, Mom, Jennifer, had come on board. So she started kind of taking the reins as far as some of the administrative tasks that needed to be done, stuff like that, while Dad was healing. And I don't know, I had this moment of like, well, I'm going to be stuck at college for 4 years, right? And I'm going to be stuck on a contract for 12. And I don't know if any of this, especially, a contract with the Marine Corps, is going to let me do what I need to do or feel like I'm doing what I need to do for my family. So I ended up making the decision after, during that first semester of college to come back home and kind of hit the ground running, which was, that was a time, if you're an 18-year-old with a buzz cut and you have no employable skills, that is not a easy way to walk into a fab shop for your first time. Let's put it that way. Because you kind of walk in just like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm just trying to help, but that was a good kind of humble start for me. And that was 4 years ago now. And during that time, kind of just slowly got more and more exposure to the industry, more and more exposure to people. We've, Dean and I have gone on many trips and had many similar conversations to what we're going to have today, but just in a car ride to a customer or back. So learned a lot, had a lot of great people. Dean, thank you for teaching me and showing me the ropes and in a bunch of ways. So, and thanks for the opportunity to be on the podcast. This is awesome. Especially on the intro. I was like, this is sick. I didn't know you were going to do an intro like that. That was awesome.
Man, I had to change my intro because, I had a license to use it, but it keeps putting a copyright on it, and I can't be bothered with it. So I just license another piece of music. So away we go. So it's been good working with you anyway, Chase, at BluTec, because I'd put it to like, you're probably one of the youngest, oldest persons I've met, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a young guy, but you it's sort of like my nephew. My nephew's the same way. He's like an old soul in there.
Yeah.
I
definitely have I definitely just enjoy a nice coffee at 8 a.m., and just kind of like try and chillax a little bit. But
I
when
know.
I work, I'm like, all right, let's get to work. So,
Well, I think it's good. I think that's why I enjoy working with you too, because I definitely like my coffee. So I know you like your coffee. But so coming into the industry, into sales, right?
Yeah.
Your first day going out selling stuff, or what's your first impression?
Oh gosh, yeah. Going back to that, my first impression was just, man, I have absolutely no leverage at all. Like
Yeah,
whether it's somebody asked me a question, I didn't know the answer. Whether somebody was like, "Hey, why are you even here?" I'd be like, "Well, effectively, I'm here to, try and figure out if you need any machinery. But other than that, if you don't have anything, sorry, I got my like early on exposure was just me cold calling, was me
yeah,
just taking some brochures, taking some line cards, walking into a shop, seeing who I could meet, seeing how far I could get. And most of the time, as far as I could get was about, 5 steps in the front door. And then the gatekeeper would usually turn me right back around and send me out the back door. So um, it was a hard entrance, but it actually was really good because it kind of taught me, I think, one of the like biggest lessons in all of it, which is as soon as you realize, especially like as a young guy in sales, that you have no leverage with anybody, like the customer's going to know more than you, the
yeah,
manufacturer's going to know more than you, right? Uh, Service tech's going to know more about this. The support team's going to know more about this. As soon as you kind of like realize your hands are free from that responsibility and you're not the one that's supposed to know everything, you're not the one that's supposed to be, the most advanced in all of the different ways, you're kind of free to really then just be like, you know what, I don't actually have to have leverage like walking into this shop. So yeah, I'd say that the first impression was just like, oh no, this is different. Like until then in your life, through high school and then college, it's kind of like, all right, people give you a task, you're expected to know how to complete all the, points of the task, and then you complete them, and then your rewards are based like directly upon like what work you do. But that gets flipped upside down, turned backward, twisted, and thrown around in sales, especially in this industry, because if you're a young guy, you walk into a shop, there's sometimes combined 500 years worth of experience, And
yeah.
if you've got 5 months,
Nah.
yeah.
Hey, look,
So,
but it always goes back. Your dad always says, just be honest and make friends, right?
yep, that's
And
it.
and the rest will come. Um, because honesty in this business, I prefer honesty than
Yeah.
you know. Uh, I
And
was quite shocked over a thing on. I actually seen a thing on LinkedIn. It says, "Would you sell something your customer doesn't need?" And I was quite shocked to see that 25% of the people who answered that poll. Now,
yeah,
people, that's 25% on LinkedIn who answered this poll. Sorry
yeah.
to say
I
that twice.
and I bet
Said
there's another,
yes.
yeah, I would say I bet there's another 25% of them too that were like, I would, but I'm gonna say no for like
Yeah,
service sake, I'm gonna seem moral or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I mean, Dad's right with that. Just be honest, make friends, kind of realize you're never going to be that guy, and you're going to go way farther and have a whole lot less stressful of a time. Because I tried
Yes.
that for my first
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
That's
No,
not the way to do it at all. I can tell you that. So
no, because even I actually talked to somebody the other day, and I think we were at lunch, and I said, "Look, this is the biggest, smallest industry ever because word travels fast in this industry, right?"
yeah,
So your best bet is to be honest. Um, so, well, what type of machines are you learning to sell right now with BluTec, right?
I mean, we've gotten to work on a bunch of different projects. I really liked kind of how everything went with you, me, and John over at their shop because I got to get into a couple different types of machines. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I'm kind of like doing the most in right now for BluTec is actually in the laser welding side of stuff. So IPG's light weld, and laser welding is definitely, it's a new thing. It's very, at least like handheld version of it is new.
Yep.
And then I'm also learning about stuff that is kind of on the older bracket, right? Press brake. In some form or fashion, we've been press braking stuff for, a couple thousand years. But those are kind of the two machines that I've actually sold or been part of a project that kind of like, I was walking all the way through. And then I've done some with laser. So, laser cutters and then also plasma. But most of what I'm spending my time in is laser welders.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you and I have worked together, and we've worked a few projects, and we've sold press brakes, lasers. We sold a CNC router.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, I
we
think
did the Komatsu stamping press.
yeah,
Stuff
definitely. So
Right.
that and yeah, that's great, man. You've been doing good. So Uh, so when people are looking at this kind of equipment, so how did you get up to speed on the technical side of things?
Technical side.
I mean, because you really roll up your sleeves and got into the technical side, and
that's the part that's kind of weird, because I think and I guess I'm talking now more to like a bunch of other young guys who want to get into it.
mm-hmm.
I think there's some people who would come into the industry and maybe they had like a mechanical engineering background, right? Like maybe they went to NC State, graduated, and then they got thrown into something like this. And then you have some guys who maybe they just kind of grew up in the trade or whatever, so they understand the technicals because they've just solved problems for the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I think if you come into the industry and you're not necessarily in a directly like technical role, so like you're not on a service team, you're not actually manufacturing the equipment, or you're not running the equipment. So if you're sales, if you're support, if you're somebody who is associated with that process or facilitating the sale, find an old guy who looks like he's really tired, and then just go up to him and ask him to
That's
teach
not
you.
me.
No, it's not you. It's not you. But this is the real point. Go into a shop. The best conversations I've had, the ones that I've learned the most on, have been going up to an old press brake operator and just being like, hey man, what are you doing right now? Right? Like the press brakes we sell now, like no one's gonna have to go over there and jiggle a die and try and figure out how to make that thing work. But those guys know their machines like it is a human being that they've talked with for 20 years. And some of them have like ran that machine for 20 years. So find an old guy, let him kind of like explain to you from a like non-engineering side or like a like non-really technical side what's going on about the process of the machine. And then I think the second thing to do is just spend time in demos, because you're gonna get the information that's like really important. And I know we've all said it before, but it's like if you just sat down and tried to learn everything about all the machines, like it would be drinking from a fire hose. You just can't do it. So just kind of like learn with the process of what your customer's learning. So go to a demo with your customer, and as they're learning about the equipment, you're also learning about the equipment. But more importantly, you're learning about the technical aspects of the equipment that customer really cares about. Robert Mann, who I'm sure you're going to have on here, and that's going to be a very fun conversation, because
we're gonna have to change the different lighting effects for Robert Mann.
I was saying, yeah. No, you know how there's like the titles for for the podcast episodes, and there's like things you talk about. His is going to be like sheet metal, Christmas, magic, aliens, the Bible, history, anthropology. Like keep going down the list or whatever. But he also makes a really good point, which is for every machine, there's a function, and then there's like an effect of that function. the customers really don't care about the function as much as they do the effect, because at the end of the day, like, they're using it to have an effect on a piece of metal so that they can have an effect on their bottom line, or have an effect on profit, have an effect on whatever's going on. So just follow kind of what that customer cares about, which is they want to see an effect. And then whoever's doing the demo usually is going to tell them about a function that goes with it. And so, yeah, I would say do that. Find an old guy, talk to him, find a demo that you can do with your customer or with somebody else's customer or whatever, and just see how conversations go. And you'll pick up information and you'll be able to kind of prioritize it as like, this is important info to know technically about a machine, and this I should just know a guy to get them in contact with.
Yeah, and that is true. The good part about this industry is connecting with everybody, and my wife, she says, "Oh, you're a bit of a connector," because I try to connect people with the right people, because I don't know everything. I've been in manufacturing for 30 years and I don't know anything. Well, I know some things, but I don't know everything, I should say. But it's, I've worked with people over the last 30 years, and we just had a guy come in and get a machine up and running in a couple of hours. Right? For a machine that we don't even sell, we don't even work with, so just knowing the right people to be able to get someone in there, hey, come in and check this out. I think that's great as well. And on getting up to speed on the technical side of things, BluTec Machinery, and they're really good about letting us go and learn and get training on equipment. Very good about that. Also, we MC Machinery as well. I'm going up to do some press brake training next week, and it's always good because things change. Industry changes a lot, and I can't remember everything, because there's so much to remember, but it's always good to get that knowledge from these guys as well, and talk to the apps guys and service guys while they're doing the training. So
MC's been really good to work with too, because like when we sold that press brake, they were like, I signed up to do the press brake training class with that customer. Spend 2-3 days doing that instead of selling. Like, it'll be important. And it was, but that's cool. I didn't know you were going back up. It seems like every about 3 months in this industry, we're doing some sort of training. For at least a day, maybe 2 days.
I think it's great,
refresh.
So what's one thing you've learned about machines or the industry that really surprised you?
That's a great question. I think probably the thing that surprised me the most is actually that, like, despite how big the industry is, pretty much everybody knows everybody. Like, it's a very spread out small town, because you kind of first glance, you're like, wait, there's no way the guys in New York that are doing this in Chicago and California know the guys in North Carolina, but they all do. And so it surprised me, and it also kind of was like a realization point of like, oh wait, like, if you screw up here, that's going to hurt you there, or the word's going to get traveled around. But if you're honest, you're truthful with a customer, you're forthright with what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, that also is going to travel around. And it was a good wake up call, but it was definitely a surprise because I was not expecting it to be so close knit.
No. And I've cold called someone before, and they said, and I sound a little bit different. Okay.
A little.
So when you're cold calling customers and someone says, oh, you're the guy on YouTube, right? I'm like, that's the first. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
I would say, yeah.
I'm not famous on YouTube
No,
by
yeah.
any means. And I was like, man,
You're the
this
Georgia
is,
guy, right? Yeah.
yeah,
That's
this is a small industry.
yeah.
So yeah, it was quite funny. So, we, I talk to young guys, and some of them are either transitioning to college or coming out of
Yeah.
college, and uh, I tell them, look, if you don't want to go work at Harris Teeter or wherever,
Yeah.
get into sales, right? So I want to talk about the sales mindset
Okay.
and that side of the manufacturing, and since you're the new guy here, how do you approach talking to experienced shop owners, engineers, or someone new in the industry?
Okay. The funny thing is, like, as I'm answering this, I'm just like replaying what you and Clint and Robert Mann and my dad have like actually told me. So like none of this is really even from my experience as far as like a long history of experience of what works and doesn't or anything. It's more so just, these things have been preached to me and I've gotten to practice them. So um, I appreciate that from y'all for sure. I'd say don't be a know-it-all. Be a know-em-all. I think that's a good piece of advice that I heard, which is, as you're approaching somebody new, you can't, especially as a young guy, or if you don't have much sales experience, you're not really going to be confident walking into a shop because you're not confident, right? Like you're not going to be able to play that confidence in a way that a customer's not, going to oversee. He's going to see through any, BS as far as that goes. So instead of playing on your own competence or your own, confidence, as far as like the sales process goes with somebody, play on everybody else that you know. Because at the end of the day, like your network, that's what you can have as like your ethos of sorts. And that's what you can really take good confidence in. So I know that if I walk into a shop, and a guy asks me a question, right? Because usually they'll try and like throw you off guard or something. You don't have to know that answer. You just look at him and you say, listen, man, I don't know, but I definitely know a guy who does. And that's going to make him realize, oh, wait, this kid actually isn't trying to like be some know-it-all or anything, right? But he does have a network that knows the answers to things like this. And that's valuable.
Yeah.
So in a way, as a new sales guy, sales mindset walking in, I'm not thinking, how do I show this customer that I'm smart or that I know something or they should trust me? It's more so, how do I show a customer that I have the resources to be able to help them? So they choose it. And then you just you like give the opportunity, give the option. And if a customer is interested, they'll show that. If they're not, they're not. And guess what? If they're not, that's okay. You get in your car, your truck or whatever, drive 5 miles down the road, and there's somebody that you may be able to help. And you don't have to like have that pressure on yourself either of walking in and like, here's my spiel. I need to like have this ready. And then they're going to say this and it's like, no, just have a conversation with them, be a friend, be honest with them. Hey, I got some people that can help you with this. I can't. They're going to respect that a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. So, and what would be your biggest challenge so far in this sales cycle?
Getting out of my own way. A lot of times. I mean, let's be completely honest about it. I think it's easy for me to get like kind of excited, especially when it's like, oh, like we've been working on this deal for 6 months or whatever, and like it's kind of at this point, right? Like I'm excited. I think it's all going to land, and things can change like that in this industry. Just yesterday, I had a customer call me, and their new year starts in May, and they're like, hey, we got the budget ready. We're probably going to go ahead and purchase a machine at the end of April. And then he calls me yesterday and he's like, hey, because of the volatility of the market, we're seeing a dip in sales, or we got to figure out this with tariffs. So we're going to have to push this down the road a little bit. We want it still, and that's kind of the thing, is you really never have any clue like what that next step is going to be. So don't get too excited, which is, I'm pretty impatient when it comes to it all. I'm like, all right, let's get here, and
I think you just gotta be patient. Talk to your customers, and you know, everybody's watching the market right now, especially with the tariffs and stuff like that. Um, so it just depends. Anything could change. It could be the tariffs today, or there could be a huge hurricane that just really puts a spin on things. No pun intended.
No, yeah,
Right?
And that genuinely happened. Like,
yeah. So
I had 2 customers that he had deals with, and they were like, "We don't have power for the next month now."
Yeah. We just had that down in South Carolina, and some bigger shops, they are the last ones to get power because we got to get the residential taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. Because we had that big storm come through last time. Now I know this, and I think we'll probably refer to the same person when we talk about this one. But have you had any small wins that made you feel like you're on the right path?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, John is definitely
exactly.
John's the customer that I have in mind. And I mean, you can talk about kind of like what that process was like. For me, it was a big win because like you held my hand through all of it, and that was great. But I know that originally I brought that customer to the table, and that for me felt good, because a lot of the deals that I've been a part of have been like, hey, you're bringing this customer to a demo and I join in there. But like beforehand, you had to set up everything else. You had to build character and trust with that, customer. You had to build kind of a rapport of how it's going to go, create a process, get them involved, go through, it's all a whole step process. So that was the first time that I kind of like brought a customer to the table for something that was not just the laser welding. And that felt really, really cool to know.
But it's teamwork, and that's what I think that sets BluTec aside. We work as a team.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But that was a good one, because you got a laser welder in there.
Yeah.
We got the press brake in there, but we've also
we've helped with it.
That's been a big game changer for their business. I
mean, he called me the other day and was like, we made the money back on the laser welder within 2 months. Now, that's not to say that there's not still, like, hey, we got to do this, or we got to get this dialed in, or we got to fix this if something comes up, right? There's still those responsibilities, but at the same time, to know that it's saving a customer money here and it moves their bottleneck back, right? And then we're able to also solve that bottleneck. That's the whole process. That's where we want to be. So it was a really good experience. And I appreciate having you to kind of like, as soon as John did mention press brake, I was like, yeah, all right. And like that same thing of getting in front of myself, I knew it was going to be better if I had you in there. So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and get Dean in here. And when we had that meeting, it was good to be able to like sit back and kind of watch how you do it and learn. So I appreciate you kind of teaching me the ropes as far as that goes.
No. What do you think? So I've got one here, connecting with customers, and I think we all do a pretty good job. I mean, I think this is why I like this industry, is because, I mean, I like to talk to customers. I like to visit shops because I just enjoy the equipment and just getting out there and seeing everyone. So what do you think helps build trust as a new sales rep? If you're bringing on a new sales rep, how does what do you think helps build that trust relationship there?
For with myself or with like introducing somebody else?
No, just with the rep, with you and the customer. What helps build that trust? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just back. No, you're good. Kind of just back to the same thing. I mean, be that customer's sounding board to your network whenever they have something. And I don't care if it's a small question, like, something that's like the customer doesn't actually even care about. Sometimes they'll throw something at you like that just to test you. But be very diligent with your answer. So if they ask you something and then you say, I don't know, let me follow up with you because I know a guy, be the sounding board and just say like, hey, team, this is the question that came up. Dean, you've got experience in this. Robert, man, you've got experience in this. What do y'all think? And then you'll both give an answer and then be diligent and getting an email sent back to that customer or calling them and saying, hey, I got an answer to this and this and this. Anything else I can help with? And they'll realize, okay, after the second time, maybe that you've done that with them, that you're not really in any position where you're trying to even to build trust. You're just trying to help them. And if you have that mindset of like, I'm just going to walk in and see who I can help, it takes all the pressure off. That's been the big thing for me. Is like, especially as a young guy, take as much pressure off yourself as you can. As far as like making everything work, that's not how it works. You're going to get to a point where you're frazzled every time you walk into a shop and you think it's all about, this or that. And then you start getting prideful if something does work and then it doesn't work the next time, then you're super down. Just help people. They'll see that you're wanting to help. That's all they need to know to trust.
Yeah. In sales, especially the young guys and you guys starting in sales, and I a lot of older sales. I'm still young in sales. I haven't been selling like as long as your dad or anybody else, but in sales there can be some high highs and there can be some low lows. So you'll figure it out, and you'll know what I mean when you get to that point.
Yeah. I haven't had a very low yet. I've had some pretty high highs and all that, but I've heard some horror stories, and I know as a kid there's been some times where like I've seen dad come home and just been like, oh, I don't know I don't know what went on today, but you're right. It can be some days where you thought it was going one way and it did not go that way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it except for just kind of take it and roll with the punches. So I'm kind of in a weird way though excited to have one of those like really bad days, because I know like once I have it, I'll be okay. But now I'm also kind of still anxious of them. Like I know
we've had some hiccups along the way. Where a truck will turn up and you got a machine. That was pretty stressful, but it's like we just you just take it easy and it all happens and it all works out, right?
And then 5 months later you forget.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I forgot that even happened.
Yeah. So are you finding that customers are caring more about specs, service, or support, or I think I have a somewhat. I think I know that they are interested in all three, but I think at the moment support is a big one.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I'd kind of would just like refer back to what you told me before, which is like they can know everything about the machine. They can be as educated as possible. And sometimes it just comes down to like we have a couple of customers right now where it's like they will never buy X machine again or B machine again or A machine again because they had a bad experience with the support or the service on it. So like the specs are never going to make or break a machine for somebody, or, rewrite kind of what their heart experienced in some sort of way. But like if you've got a manufacturing director or whatever at a shop and he bought this machine 5 years ago and within 5 months it was dead, and then that hurt him, you know, and hurt his family because he wasn't bringing back the money he needed that year, or he got cut in this or whatever. Like, he's going to remember that, and he's going to remember it like in his heart. So I think, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, if you don't have good support and you don't have good service of something, especially the support of knowing that even if like something does happen and it's not the most immediate sort of answer, that somebody still has your back, like that feeling of security for a customer is, I think, what everybody wants. And it's the same thing we all want. We just, you know, it's the same conversations. Like, all right, well, when I buy this car, I don't really care at the end of the day what, you know, type of valves are in this or whatever. It's like, all right, can I take it back to the shop I bought it from and then fix it if this happens? You know, what's the warranty like? Can I call the guy who sold it to me, and will he be able to connect me with somebody? Those sorts of things. So I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely support, because some support lacks out there, but I think most of the, well, pretty much all the companies we work with are being really great at support. I I've got to say, I always brag on about our support guys that maintain our lasers, fix our lasers, do installs. You know, they very helpful. But I think support changes with the level of machines you're buying as well. You know, just look at the Mitsubishi Laser and MC Machinery and how they've connected the remote 360, and
immediately, boom, you're already connected. They already know
I can be in the office down there in Concord, and be walking with a customer and showing them a laser in Concord, and then something could happen to catch my eye on the screen, and there's a service come in. But it's pretty amazing, how quick and good they do. You know, sometimes you know, so if people are busy, you know, it may not be instant. You know, I know everybody is. I think sometimes we all get in that Amazon mindset, you know.
Well, I need it now. I need it an next day shipped. You know.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I mean, that really does bring a good point up, because, like, I think MC has done a really good job for a long time, but especially, like, I was even talking with some of the guys at MC about this. They were like, we know that, you know, a 24-hour period for a customer, just, you know, depending on their size, if they're down, that's not an issue of for them, you know, you know, necessarily even like what part it is or how long. It's the fact that they are not in production. So for 24 hours, they're not producing something. There's a dollar amount attached to that. So like every minute costs blank amount of money. And in a customer's mind, they know what that exact number is. But, you know, think about a lot of the customers they have. It's a requirement that they meet certain things, and they have a certain production schedule,
and they have a deadline to meet. Right. Yeah. And they could get penalized on that deadline. That's how
they could lose a whole contract if they're you know, job shop or whatever. And that's the scary part, is like, okay, that's where it matters, you know, to have that support level. So I'm glad that we've got that with everybody that we rep, because if not, that, you know, I would say that it's not unheard of that, you know, 24 hours down or whatever for your laser could be $25,000, you know, or more, depending on who it is. Right. But that would be on you. If it'd be on your shoulders if you knew there wasn't like a support team behind you. So it definitely helps to have that.
Definitely. So what's your approach to understanding what a customer really needs? So how do you approach that? It's just I'll let you go ahead and see if
See
talk
what I
about
think? Yeah.
that, and then I'll follow up.
I would say, I think I learned a lot of this from you, but let them tell you pretty much. Ask them a bunch of good questions.
Bingo. Listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like, don't just walk in and be like, well, he's got one laser and two press brakes and three welders. And, if he does this and that, it's like, it's not a math problem. It's not like a manufacturing problem in college. It's like, ask the customer what's important to him and he'll tell you, like if you walk in, you're like, hey, what are you guys having issues with? Like, what, if there's one thing that you could have right now on your wish list, like what would that be to fix? And then they'll tell you something. And usually it's not super detailed because they don't want to get detailed. And then you just kind of ask a follow-up question. One of my favorite questions that my dad taught me is if somebody says something to you. So like if they're like, well, I got this one guy who is going to be retiring soon, so I need to replace my press brake operator or whatever, right? And it's an older press brake, so I got to train a guy, and he's got a shadow to learn all that, and that's a whole problem or whatever. You can say something that would kind of like, this is going to sound weird. It's almost going to like contradict what he says, but ask him a question that's like, oh, I thought it was pretty easy to train somebody on that press brake, right? Even if it's not a press brake you rep, because what that customer is going to do is correct you, and he's going to correct you in a much more detailed way. You go, no, man, the controls on that thing, they stink. You've got to do this, and you've got to redo this, and sometimes, after lunch or whatever, you got to reset the whole way you're doing it because things have changed mechanically, or every 15 days we're changing this or whatever, and somebody's got to learn all that. And then all of a sudden he's given you a full, minute speech of the things he doesn't like that he wants to have fixed. And if he could fix those, he would train somebody easier. Boom, that's your opportunity.
Yeah.
What of that can we help with, right? And you don't necessarily say it in a way of like, oh, well, our controls are better. You just go, well, would it be important? Like, how important would it be for you to have something easy to train somebody on? And they're like,
Yeah.
vastly important because I can't hire anybody, right? It's hard to find people. Okay, well, let's solve the hiring decision that he has because that's his actual problem point, not needing a press brake, right? It's okay. He needs unskilled labor to be skilled labor. And the best way to do that is with good training, good support, and an easy machine to operate, good controls, good software. Boom. All right, let's answer those questions for him so he can solve his hiring issue and frame it in that way in your mind, because then it's going to be a lot easier to do that than just walk in and say, do I need to sell this customer a press brake, a laser, or a laser welder, or a saw or whatever. Just let them describe the issues they deal with each day, and they'll tell you exactly what they don't like and what they want, and you just go from there.
Yeah, that's like yesterday I come in and seen a press brake with an old controller on it. I'm like, man, there's no one that can run that thing anymore, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I said,
Yeah.
you'll probably get support for the machine, but I don't know if anyone knows that controller.
No.
But that brings me to a good point because MC Machinery, when I was there last time, they have a lot of old controllers in the back. And so they've got old controllers they can still train on and troubleshoot. So yeah, I think so I don't know.
That's a good point. I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense. There's still a lot out there,
MC Machinery, they do that. You go up there and you look at some of the older Mitsubishi lasers. Say you got a laser that's over 20 years old or something, that old controller will still be at MC Machinery and they can hook it up and
teach somebody,
run through it and train and run through it, because you're not going to remember that old controller.
Dude, no.
But this wasn't a Mitsubishi machine I was on the other day when I looked at it, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
That is like two separate controllers joined together.
Yeah.
I'm
You
like,
pull it out and the keyboard is like covered in a layer of dust. You just,
yeah, I was like,
man,
what what controller runs the machine, or have you bypassed some of it to run? Yeah, so it'd be,
you
yeah,
press go on this machine, the one behind you turns
it's
on. You're like,
gonna
wait,
it's gonna be
what's going on?
interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to get into mentorship and growth. I know we've all had mentors along the way. I've had a mentor when I started. I went to trade school, and then I had a mentor, and he was from Hungary, and he showed me everything, all the way, every single thing in the shop when I was probably 17, right? And so do you have a mentor or someone guiding you through this early stage? I know you probably get home and your dad's probably helping you a
Oh,
lot,
yeah.
and your mum as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I mean, I have all of y'all as mentors in different ways. I mean, my dad and mom are really, they're mentoring me in a like, hey, this is the business administration side. This is the, relationship side with the manufacturer. How do you negotiate or, maneuver through conversations with the manufacturer of the equipment? What's the process on the back end behind these things? How do you manage a team? How do you make sure that you're on top of stuff with a customer? And my dad has kind of got this overarching view of everything. So I'd say he's for sure, my biggest mentor. And there's a solid emotional side to sales that is difficult. Like you have bad days. You have days where you woke up and you thought it was going to be a great day, and all of a sudden there's 3 calls, and all of them are not great, and all of them are separate issues you got to figure out. So he's been really good with helping me as far as understand, how to manage through that stuff. And then you've got kind of like the different elements of the actual thing. So like Robert Mann has been in sales for a ton of time. So him and my dad are my 2 biggest influence as far as like sales mindset, that type of thing. And pretty much everything I've said today has been something either they have told me, or you've told me, or Clint's told me, or somebody has told me. My biggest, I would say Clint is my biggest mentor as far as understanding like a shop owner's mindset. Since he was a customer of Dad's for a long time, and he's worked in those shops for a long time, he's got a really good understanding of if somebody says this is what they mean. He's really good at kind of like, I think Robert Mann coins this term, but like it's a translation, right? They talk about the machine, but what they're really talking about is like success for their business, or a bottom line, or whatever, or fixing some problem. So he's really, really good at understanding that, and has taught me a lot about how customers think. And he's done a great job of like proving that process out, because there's been plenty of things that he and I have done together where I was like, well, yeah, I wouldn't have ever thought of it that way, but he already knows. And then for you, it's definitely kind of a combination of a couple things. I think one of it is like also the sales information, right? Because you've got a lot of experience in sales, even though you've not been doing sales as long as Robert Mann or Dad or whatever. But it's also broader, I would say, because you had like the software side. So that helps a lot for me, understanding like the software, the training, things like that. And then you've done everything from welded, random pipes in the middle of fields in New Zealand to, fixed controls on a machine that is like 15 years old that you and I have never touched before, right? Or you've walked into a shop and had this conversation about this one specific thing that, all of a sudden I'm learning about that one event that happened in this machine, type or life at some point in the last 15 years. So I've gotten a lot from you in a broad way of like what touches every single portion of how things are done, whether it's over in New Zealand, which surprisingly you guys actually do a good job with stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But
yeah.
But the, anything there or on this side, and you've been to however many, training events with different things where you're always picking up info and kind of like pointing out how it meets this. You're just, I mean, the podcast is a good example of it, but like, you're very curious when it comes to stuff. So you've picked up a lot of information. And so it's always just get that information off of you. Cause it's like, wow, like one conversation with you, you realize like, okay, we talked about this, this, and this, and I didn't know anything about any of that. And you're just like, this is the best thing ever. So, I enjoy kind of learning what you've learned and kind of piggytailing on your kind of curiosity, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, there's so much, you know, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good mentors out there, and I think everybody needs to, at some point, you have a mentor, or you have people you look up to.
Yeah.
One guy I've always looked up to, and you know, he owned both companies I worked for years ago, and that's where I learned a lot of stuff, and that was with Alan McGregor from Amtech Engineering and Terry O'Kane, all them guys. Yeah, they, you know, that really helped me get into manufacturing and carry on my career, and I was just, it's just all been about that. And your dad, of course, and then we got Adam. Adam has been really helpful.
Yeah. The other
mentoring.
thing too, I'm excited. I haven't spent much time with Sam yet, but I'm excited because I know he's got a similar experience to Clint as far as like the whole industry goes, being a customer and knowing
Yeah,
side of it all, and being, you know, that customer in that shop that not only owned his own shop but also worked for, you know, BAE and has worked for these big companies and understands how all the ins and outs of that works. I'm excited to kind of tag along with him and see how he goes about stuff. And Adam too. Adam's great to learn from because Adam also knows, it's like Adam knows the process and the chain better than anybody else. You know,
yeah,
he knows, like he'll look at something and be like, next step is going to be this, and like, sure enough, next step is that. You know, customers asking this question or asking about this, and so that's cool to see from him as well. All of that.
What skills are you working on right now to become a better salesperson?
All of them. Every
day.
There's not a single day that you're working on one skill only, and there's not a single day that you're not working on any skills. Like, you wake up each day and there is a new problem that requires a new skill, or you to develop a skill that you had, whether it's, you know, like interpersonal, like empathy or something, or it's just basic problem solving, or it's just like, I've had some days where it was like, I felt like I was back in college just researching a paper, you know?
Yeah.
But like, instead of researching a paper, it's researching a thing about a machine or a process, or, hey, what about this ASME code? Like, or like regulation. What about the food and beverage industry? I don't know anything about the food and beverage industry, right? I'm not making kitchenware all the time, but my customer is, so I need to educate on it. And so every last skill, whether it's, you know, a personal skill, a sales skill, a understanding about the machines and how it works, or just kind of like, heck, you are even developing skills on like just being able to drive down the road and have like 6 things in your head, and then take this call, right? And then pull off, and then send an email, and then get back on the road and know what you were doing, and then get to a customer shop and keep that all in the back of your head. But now you're having a conversation, and like, it's all these different things all at once. So
Yeah. No, definitely. Because manufacturing's always changing, right?
yeah.
For tariffs example, that's changed everything up. It's always different. So you're always trying to figure out how to do things differently, you know? And that's been, I think, That's true. In every sales job or every job you're in, you always, okay, all right. So 10 years ago, I'll take COVID, for example, right?
Yeah.
We had to learn to do things differently in COVID because you weren't allowed to go out. You weren't allowed to
Yeah.
travel, weren't allowed to do a lot,
Yeah.
And so okay, so what do I do? Right. How are we going to change this and do this? But yeah, so I think learning and changing. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm either on the road.
Yep.
So I like to listen to podcasts and learn different things and pick up different stuff. And
Yeah.
the podcast, there's one podcast I'm listening to right now, and besides mine, all
Yeah.
right, Sheet Metal Unleashed,
Yeah.
but there's Metal Made podcast that just started.
Yeah.
He did a good one with the guys from Laser Nut,
Yeah.
out in California, and a Diary of a CEO is a great podcast, and yeah.
I listen a lot to like. Funny enough, one of my favorites is like the Andrew Huberman podcast. Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I might have. I might have to look it up.
It's a good one. I mean, this is going back to your point of like learning about it, a bunch of different stuff, but he's a what do you call him? Like a neuroscientist or whatever you want to call it, but understands everything for the brain. And he has everybody on that understands a bunch for the brain. So like he's talking about like the dopamine and norepinephrine and the adrenaline, and which are all apparently like the same thing. And then he's, talking about how like the prefrontal cortex does this and this and this and this. And so it's cool because like you kind of get an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes and like our brains and how that works. And he also has a lot of people who connect that with like business, right? Like, oh, well, if, we did a study at Sanford and they took all these people and put them in this group and then realized like all the entrepreneurs had this area of their brain like lit up more than others. And it's cool because you kind of like start to realize how things work, and he has some really cool people on it. But I'd actually like, I think that'd be like if somebody, told me something to say to myself 4 years ago when I started, it would be keep listening to podcasts that aren't even like just like directly associated with what you're doing, because also you'll have customers where you walk in and like you see that they're listening to the Sean Ryan show, right? And you're like,
oh yeah,
let's talk about that. Like I just listened to this for 2 hours when I drove here, and
yeah,
it's cool. You like learn about a bunch of stuff so that you can carry on a conversation with whatever, because people are going to want to talk about whatever they're interested in. And, talk with a man about what he's interested in. He'll talk to you for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I've got, so let's talk about the future of manufacturing. Okay.
Yeah.
As someone, and we'll be wrapping up here shortly. As someone new to the space, what excites you about the future of manufacturing?
Oh yeah. In a very like particular sense, one thing that I'm excited for is to see welding qualifications have a laser welding side to them, because right now the laser welding, the biggest kind of like bottleneck for most customers is if they're a job shop, they have to meet the specs that are given to them. And so, hey, we need this weld with this size fillet, and we need to qualify it to these standards, and we need to pass these tests. And laser welding is something that's, at the end of the day, it gets a similar job done, but it's a different process. It's a different format. It's a lot of times that weld is going to look completely different. And it's a very, it doesn't just correlate over to like current welding standards. So I'm excited to see how, there are standards that come out for people to be able to laser weld. So, hey, manufacturer or contract manufacturer gets two engineering sheets. And one is if you're going to MIG this part or TIG this part. And then the other is if you're going to laser weld this. I think that'd be really cool to see. But the other side of it too is I'm excited to see like the combination between automation and kind of how like that, and it changes like the employment kind of sector of everything. Because I think it's going to be a lot different than people think maybe.
Yeah.
I think you're like, at least from what I know or like what I've seen, you're still going to need that operator. You're still going to need that person to understand it, but they're going to be more so the brains behind what's going on and less the like particular focused skill tactily of doing something. So I'm excited to see all that as well, but I'm also young, so I'm just excited to see everything. I only have like 4 years of experience in it all. So, you know, I have no clue which way it could go. I'm just, all right, I'm in for the ride. Let's see where it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had another one here. So are there any trends or tech you think that are going to change the game? I think AI, everybody's starting to do more with the AI.
Yeah.
And I think sounds like my dogs are acting up right now. Sorry.
No,
Sorry, everybody. I've got a dog that's really special. I mean,
when are you gonna get him on? Are you gonna sit him in a chair and interview him?
yeah.
What's it like to be DeanFowell's dog?
Oh, that dog drives me crazy.
No.
But yeah, I think AI is a game changer for that. I like to see. I see a lot of it, especially when in the Mitsubishi Lasers, we're seeing a lot with the AI. I think it's good. You know, there will be drawbacks. You know, but that's like anything. The internet, for example, it has drawbacks, right?
Oh yeah.
It invites hackers. I don't think you're ever going to get away from that sort of stuff, you know, because I mean, criminals are criminals. I don't know what to say about that. You know, if a hacker's going to hack your computer, they're going to try, and they'll adapt with the technology as the technology improves. But we just have to get better with security and stuff like that.
The AI stuff too. I don't know how much of that works. So kind of also follow your lead on all that. But I guess yeah, there are a couple people, you know, MC's doing a really good job of like incorporating it early on. I cannot wait though till when there's like a chat GPT pretty much on like any machine, and it's like, what is going on? Why is this not working? And then the machine an answer.
Man, I wouldn't be surprised if it, because, you know, coming back to when we were talking about podcast and listening to something that's not in your industry, right? I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've listened to screen printing podcast, and there's a guy, and in Chat GPT, there's one on screen printing. So anything to do with screen printing, you can now go on there and go into this one that and create a shirt, do this, do that. Hey, help me figure out this. You know, so that I believe that's probably coming. I wouldn't. I couldn't imagine not seeing one for manufacturing or something. And people are using it every day. I was just talking to somebody else the other day, and they were looking up Chat GPT, you know, and I use AI as well to help me write code.
Even like production standards, you know, like I think it'll be cool to see if like a machine could have hey, what percentage efficiency does this machine need to run at compared to all the other machines in my chain of production? Like I think it's going to get to that point where like you can go up to a machine and you can say, hey, like the press brake has got, you know, 62 more of these things to bend. and we're cutting 30 a minute. So what do we need to change as far as the production scale? Like what's the lineup now of parts? Is like all of a sudden your tower system going to go, oh wait, we need to change and cut these things so that they're ready, because we know that that's lower on the chain of production. I think it's going to get to that point, which is going to be cool, because that really takes a lot of the inefficiency out of production that is already just built in there because of human error, or because not paying attention.
This is here's an example of the future of manufacturing, right? There's so much you can do with it. Like, so most of you all know, who either watch my YouTube channel or started tuning into our podcast, that I've been around RADAN for a very long time. End user for RADAN in the early 2000s for punch combination machines. So in RADAN has its own programming language called RADMAC, right? And you can create macros. So I can run a macro in the software to do tasks, so I don't have to do anything. And I'm like, well, I don't have young kids anymore, so I can stay up late at night and mess around, right? So I was actually on there, and I said, well, man, we used to write these macros, and I'd write a macro and run it in the software and see if it works. Well, I decided to go into GPT and put in there and typed in the Mac language and said, okay, create me a macro to create a circle and array that circle in X and Y and dimensions. And the chat GPT read through it and created the code for that macro.
Really?
I loaded that macro into RADAN.
Wow.
I loaded that code into RADAN and popped up the macro, and it does exactly what it does.
God.
And imagine how long it used to take to write that macro and mess around with it earlier on. So ChatGPT is going to be a game changer for a lot of stuff, man. Or even not just ChatGPT, but just AI in general.
Yeah. I know we were talking about it one day when we were driving about having like what do we call it? Like BlueNet or whatever, but it's like think about like Reddit, but for like manufacturing, like metal fabrication, pretty much. Something like that I think would be sick, because it's like the human side of it. But then if you train an AI model on all of the metal fabrication information, then all of a sudden you have like, you would have a system that pretty much is like, you could have it at every shop, and it's like, hey, tell me information about this machine. And I guarantee at least one other shop has that machine, right? Or, has had that problem, or has had to cut a part similar to this. And now it's going to kind of like, kind of show itself like an answer. And then I guess you could like rate it or something. That would be cool. But maybe that's step 3 or whatever. You got the YouTube, then podcasts, and then some sort of like AI thing.
No, I think it's good. There's so much out there for people to learn about manufacturing. It's crazy. And that's, I don't think I see myself doing anything else. This is all I sort of know. And YouTube makes it really impossible to become famous, and unless I dress up in a bikini and have some thumbnails up there.
There you go.
But anyway, we'll do a quick wrap up here. But coolest machine you've seen so far?
Coolest machine. In a purely 10-year-old chase cool factor, I think it was the 500-ton stamping press, or maybe it was that we saw up at Komatsu. There's nothing complex about it. It just goes shunk, shunk, but that thing rocks you. It like you're in the same building as it. Number one, it's like 20 foot down in a pit, and still is 20 foot in the air, and you just see it go shunk, and you feel it across the entire place. Like I bet if you're out in the parking lot, you'd feel that thing. So that was just cool. You know, it's like giant piece of metal moving up and down, really, and that's about it. But and we weren't even like seeing production out of it. You know, there wasn't a feed line going through and like stamping out hoods or something. It was just cool to see something that big move that much metal. Other than that, though, seeing like the AI or like the nozzles for the MITS lasers, seeing those like, speed up or slow down or like have an issue or something, go and like check itself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if it needs to change a nozzle, coming back and then like start again, stuff like that, I think is really cool because it's kind of like, whoa, like this machine is solving its own problems. You know, it's that same like AI kind of in general buzz. But what about for you?
Man, there's so many. There's so many. I just, you know what? I would have to say it's the Mitsubishi press brake with the Aceta robot and the AGVs loading and unloading a laser.
That was sick too.
I mean, I used to run a laser and load and unload many sheets, and we had two lasers connected to one loader. So, you know, you're the forklift going back, unloading the machine, and we're running that 2 shifts a day, sometimes 3 shifts a day. And just to see you loading material in the machine, it's getting loaded, you're cutting parts, it's unloading it, the AGV's taking it over, the robot's picking those parts up, press breaking it, putting it on another skid, and it's going somewhere else. That to me is probably the coolest. And I think having that at FabTech last year was awesome to see, and I think it blew everybody's mind.
Every time I'd look over, there would just be like, because they had like this huge plexiglass thing, everybody was just like, watching.
And
they're like, whoa, wait, so you put a sheet of metal there and you have a finished part stacked perfectly on a pallet there, bent, everything cut, bent. I was like, even for me, just like watching it, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of what are those things, you know, like the YouTube shorts where it's like a satisfying, like
it
was like that but real, you know. So anyway, that's cool.
Biggest lesson in your first months of working with BluTec?
I probably have to go back to your job, especially early on, is not to know it. It's just to know them, you know, know your customer, know the issues they face, know the toolbox you have as far as resources you've got. Surround yourself with people who are respected and who are accomplished, who understand what's going on, who understand kind of everything that is going to be involved with a customer's process, have the technical information, and then just be a connecting board and just learn. Just, hey, you guys shake hands. I'm just going to sit here and listen. And I know I've done that for probably 4 years now, but I'm going to be doing it for 40 years, you know, more. Who knows? You never stop doing. So I'd say that's my biggest advice. Just find good people, connect them, and then just sit back and watch.
I know. So this will be the last question for today as I go and wrap up the show here. But one piece of advice you'd give someone else just getting into this field?
Ooh. Just in general in the field, or like specifically in sales?
In the field, or wanting to get into manufacturing field, or
hold on tight. Whatever it is, just hold on tight. No, I would say just stay on your toes. Always be learning. Never settle for what you already know. Don't let what you already know keep you from learning something else. And just be curious, just be interested in what people have to say, and be genuinely helpful. So yeah, just be curious and helpful. You'll go a long way, and that's going to that's going to get you in a lot of places and keep you from getting kicked out of them as well. So
yeah, man. Well, I appreciate your time, Chase.
Yeah.
Thanks for jumping
Awesome.
on with us.
For once, I would say for once we had a productive conversation. You know?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Anyway, well,
it's always good. I think it's good to sit down and get to know everyone, and I think it's good for our industry so people know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Hey guys, anyway, thanks for listening to the podcast. The podcast is made possible by Sheet Metal Life at sheetmetallife.com and sheetmetaltv.com. And also you can find us on Spotify, Apple, and like, comment, subscribe, unsubscribe, do not like, it's fine, whatever. But come check us out. We're all new, but I think it's a great place to get information and get connected. And I look forward to seeing you all out on the next one. And have a great day, morning, evening, no matter where you are in the world. All right.
Thank you, Dean.
See ya. Bye-bye, Chase.